and the group will be the victim of its own bad karma. If this other group wants him to perform actions that are unethical, for instance, desert a family or neglect people, or to turn their financial resources at the expense of family into some organization, these things are leverages in which a person is over-influenced, forced to do something, either by intimations or by actual threats that are not what he wants to do. Then he is in trouble. And the only answer in that situation is, if what you are asked to do is below the level of your own integrities, refuse. And if the refusal makes you an enemy to the group, retire. Do not allow any belief, no matter how religious it may be worded, to cause you to break in any way the commandments in the Sermon on the Mount. Never compromise principles because human beings demand it. That organizations are built up which are contrary to ethics, that is their business. But we cannot afford for one moment to be over-influenced by them. So that is where your bad karma comes in. Now, if you have become associated with a group and it wants you to do something that you shouldn't do, and expects you to propaganda that group and influence other people to do what you do not believe, and you try to do it, then you are making karma. You are breaking the integrities of life. Now, karma is not just a penalty. Buddhism, Hinduism, most of the religions of the world that accept karma as a reality do not regard it as basically a punishment. It is a challenge. Karma is not something desperately bad that's falling on your head. Karma is a gentle reminder that you have done it wrong, and that therefore it is time to rearrange your values. Karma is not something that curses you to the end of time. Karma is something that invites you by an object lesson to improve your own conduct. If you accept karma as a challenge of integrities and rise above it as such, you will find that there is always a silver lining and there is always a compensation for the improvement of conduct. So never think that karma is like damnation or something of that nature. It is not even purgatorial. It is simply nature telling you that you have broken the rules. And that's because you have broken the rules on one level, you are physically ill. You're not physically ill because you were predestined and foreordained to be sick. You are ill because you have broken some kind of a rule of health. You are worried. Well, your worries are probably quite justified in some things. But if you worry and get headaches, maybe become ill, then your worry is obviously causing a karmic reaction, because nature says you will not get far by worrying. Worrying is a destructive emotion, and destructive emotions never result in good. When the problem comes along, consider it, meditate upon it, study it, but never fear it. Try to do the thing that will take care of it simply. If it cannot be taken care of, learn to patiently live with it until it clears. But do not worry. Worry is a negative emotion. It will give headaches, it will give sickness, it will disturb your personal life, it will disturb your career and everything else. The same is true of mostly every negative attitude. You come through a life and you come in here and there's a drive in you of ambition. There is a demand for success that seems to be built into you. Well, that is in all probabilities part of the message that comes through from a previous life to remind you that you were trying to be more than you should be then and haven't gotten over it. When this type of thing comes along, relax, do the thing that you can do well, but do not strive beyond a reasonable point, or you'll get nothing out of it but sickness. If in the course of all of these experiences you begin to flirt with justice and do things that are illegal, immoral, or unreasonable, then more karma comes into play. But if you correct these things, the karma ceases. And if you didn't do them in the first place, there wasn't any karma. And the individual who lives a simple, direct life is going to be the saint of tomorrow. In this world we're living in now, we're coming to the end of the 20th century. And we're coming into it in an awful mess. Now this mess is not quite as bad as it looks, we'll admit that. But it is something that is a great cause of worry and a great cause of anxiety, and we're beginning to see that selfishness is building up a debt that can never be paid, that ambition is ruining nation after nation, and that personal selfishness is destroying populations. All of these things are very depressing, and rightly so. But they all arise from the same simple fact, namely that we won't keep the rules. And because we will not keep the rules, and do not want to hear about the rules, because they interfere with our personal fulfillment, so-called, we are in this position, and we are coming gradually to the end of the century. There's only one answer to this problem, and that is to get back again to the basic integrities. There is no reason why these vast empires, monopolies, and aggregates should continue. There is no reason why baseball players should get $10 million a year. There is no reason for this tremendous urge for wealth. And again, the words of Christ come into mind, that we should store up our wealth, our treasures in heaven and not in this world, because anything we store up here will be destroyed, corroded, or stolen. So we can just simply begin to think that by maybe the beginning of the next century, there will be a kind of fall. We fell once out of heaven, and we fell into a serious situation, if we can believe the biblical stories. But next time, perhaps we'll fall on our feet. Perhaps the next time we will realize that there are certain simple integrities which are the best for all of us. And that when we have these integrities, we can be happy, we can develop talents and abilities, we can unfold resources of consciousness, resources of art, music, literature, we can travel, we can do all kinds of things that are nice and pleasant. As soon as we stop this tremendous pressure for values that can never be fulfilled. So if we break the rules, it is not so much that we are being punished. It's simply that the blackbirds have come home to roost. We have done certain things, and we must take the results of these things. And until we correct them, they will continue to haunt us. There's no use going to somebody else to ask them how we can survive gloriously the consequences of our own mistakes. There are a lot of counselors that will take on the job, though, for reasonable consideration. They will tell us that we can do anything we want to do, and that all this idea of morality and ethics and so forth is something that is being used by the intellectuals to imprison the common man. That actually we can all be millionaires. Years ago, there was a man said, if you really want to be a millionaire, all you have to do is keep your mind on your second vest button and make sure that your chest is pushed out against it all the time. This does it. As I remember, he died poor. But in any event, we will have all kinds of advice on how to control other people, how to make the great steps forward into luxury and extravagance. We will be told that our morality is an interference with our success, that integrities are old-fashioned and out of date, that what we should do is scurry around and get other people into as much trouble as possible. Well, those giving this kind of advice are the ones who are building up some pretty bad karma, because they are perhaps going to sometime have to live in a world which is not that kind. Supposing at the next century there is a major shift, and simple, honest values become important. We are no longer so ambitious about everything. We're perfectly happy to live along in comfort and peace and quietude, and that wealth will have lost all of its attraction for us. About this time, those who have been preaching the importance of wealth and power and all those things will come in again with the same preachment, and no one will be listening. No one will care. These people then will go through a terrible pressure of finding that all of their processes, all their willpower, all their determination is powerless against the common sense of an enlightened majority. The moment we become a little reasonable, all this unreasonable policy will vanish. The vast inflations will slow down the moment people think. And when we begin to do this, then we will have what is called good karma, which is really just normalcy. And the bad karma is simply unwillingness to keep the rules. And of course the rules are all kinds of things. Everywhere there is a pattern. And if we want to study, or we want to read, or we want to examine into things, it might be good to try to a little basic summary of the basics of the various sciences, arts, philosophies, and religions, that we find how it all started, and that these things are kind of basic things growing up with us, and that somewhere in them we will find the answers to the problems that we need to know. It's very important perhaps to a scientist to put another ship on the moon or something, but it is also terribly important to cut down the divorce rate. We are going to find that we'll never be happy until we do the simple things well. And when we do the simple things well, we may discover that a lot of the difficult things are not necessary anyway. We are becoming too complicated. And in our complications, we allow infinite varieties of attitudes to destroy friendliness, to destroy companionability, to make feuds that last for generations, dividing nations and races, and causing conflict everywhere. It's all just simply due to the fact we will not look inside of ourselves or understand the divine plan of things. It is because of this, in spite of all our feelings on the matter, that religion is probably the master of all arts and sciences. Religion is the most powerful thing in the world. But religion, caught into this trap, also prostituted in the name of profit and wealth and